but we're going to continue with our series that we've been walking through called Story. How many of you here like a good story? All right, we all do, I think. Stories are important to us. Stories are what define us. Most of us have a handful of stories that are a window into who we are. They are stories of great times when we were growing up, stories of some kind of experience of suffering or painful loss, stories of things that we've overcome in our lives. I mean, if you really want to get to know somebody, you hear their stories, right? That's the way you get to know them. That's called history giving. And it's one of the most important steps if we're going to build authentic relationships is to tell our stories to one another, right? Here, I'll tell you a little bit of a story, a little window into my life. When I was in 5th grade, going into 6th grade, I went to asthma camp, okay? That's asthma camp. You didn't know that there was one, but there is one. And I had a pretty good case of asthma as a child, and that meant at certain times and during certain activities, I would have trouble breathing. And even then, I knew that breathing was important. So my mom, who was a nurse, felt that it would be a good idea for me to go to asthma camp to learn how to cope with that problem. And, you learn how to breathe, and to, basically not die. What I found out quickly when I arrived at asthma camp was that I didn't really have as bad a case of asthma as I thought I did. Already, I think even at that time, I was beginning to grow out of that, which sometimes happens for people. At that time, it would only affect me if I was really active or if I was sick or something else, some other complication. But that week at asthma camp changed my life. For some reason, the good people who decided to have this asthma camp chose to locate it in downstate Illinois, where in the summertime it's about 95 degrees, 95% humidity every day. And the camp seemed to be located somewhere between a cornfield, a daisy farm, and a pollen factory. It was like the Bermuda Triangle for asthmatics. So all day long during the activities, all the kids are like seizing up and having to be carried off to treatment. The upshot of the whole experience was that I dominated at nearly every activity, every sport. It had never happened to me before like this, and so it was really quite a week. I wasn't very athletic, but I just learned that if I would stick it out long enough on the playing field, other asthmatic kids would just start dropping like flies. It all happened. You can't judge me here, but let me just tell you, that week, first girlfriend, first kiss, it all happened at asthma camp. It was exactly the boost of confidence that I needed going into junior high. Those were tough times. I learned an important lesson. Sometimes, if you just stay in the game long enough, other people will fall over and have to go to the infirmary. And I've tried to live by that. Now, I can joke around. I mean, it's one of the stories that I really do look at as it's a vivid memory in my mind from my childhood. The Bible has some great stories in it. I grew up in a Catholic family. All the boys in our family have Christian names. And I just remember at one point during my childhood being able to connect the fact that our names, had stories in the Bible associated with them. So my oldest brother, Paul, I'd be, Mom, tell me the story. Tell me about Paul. Paul was a great missionary to the Gentiles. I mean, he was used by God to write most of the New Testament. Paul, what a great name. David, my older brother, David, greatest king Israel ever knew. The heart after God. I mean, he just incredible stories in the Bible about David, King David. Mom, tell me about Stephen. Wait a second. I don't know, why would you name your child? I mean, Stephen, if you don't know, Stephen was the guy in the Bible who got stoned, and not in the way that you're thinking, with rocks. We're talking about deadly rocks.